All right, everybody, and we're back here with LVG, Electrical and Communication. Wow, we covered a lot with that first show. And so if you missed that first show, everybody tune in. You can see it on our Facebook, YouTube channels. We give a copy to you guys to put wherever you like to share what you do. So with that, we'll dig in a little bit more. We want to talk about a couple important things. First off, if you really want to be part of helping the community and you support our veterans, they offer a 10% discount. There's a 10% discount that you can receive if you're a veteran and you served in our military. With that, I always give a hats on tribute. Thank you guys, gentlemen, for those who served in our military. Thank you. Hats off, as we say. But I'll put the cowboy hat on. We didn't put the hat on the first show. We got so involved with what we got there. But we like to share the excitement, though. Very cool. Also, there's promotions periodically that you guys will offer, right? And so if you've got a special promo that people want to find out more, check that out on your website. And the website's got a ton of great information on there as well. So check out the website, and you can see here it's lowvg.com, and you should be able to see, there it is, lowvg.com. The phone number is 636-362-6584. Talk to Ashley, most likely, there. Call into that number. Is that true?
Absolutely.
Yep. It'll be me.
Okay. Well, with that, we want to dig in here. We got a couple important things we need to cover a little bit more thoroughly, if you will. But that process, when somebody gets started with you, they're actually going to call into the phone number on the website, or they can fill out a form on the website. Is that true? And that'll come in, and Ashley, you'll follow up with that. Tell us how that works, and so then once they get that part initiated, where does it go from there?
Well, I mean, I'll give them a call, or one of the managers will give them a call, depending on the experience, I would say. And do you want to take over?
So just depending on what services they're looking for, we'll decide what direction to deflect it, whether Ashley calls them or one of the managers call them. Sometimes we got to have a manager call them first just to make sure we understand the scope and what needs to be done, and make sure that we don't do a wasted trip out there, and that they're okay with whatever pricing that we have in place for them, whether it's a service call or we actually have to give them a quote.
Yeah, because there's a lot of coordination behind the scenes that goes on here. When you're doing electrical, you're doing communications, and you're doing solar. Is there often you're doing all three of those for a client, or are they usually separate? How do those work together?
Sometimes solar can lead into some electrical services, like if their panel's too small, we have to upgrade their panel, or if there's no space on the panel, we may have to replace it. So, or add a sub panel. Sometimes they'll get an electric car; they want to add a car charger with their solar panel system. So
okay,
there's times that we have to do a little bit of electrical work to make their envision possible.
And that's what Ashley behind the scenes, and you're going, okay, let's get this order nailed down correctly. What all are your needs? You're kind of coordinating all that.
Yes. So I'll find out basically what they're in need of specifically, and then depending on if they need a quote or not, I can set up a time to either meet with him or the electrical manager. And then they'll meet with them on site and put together a quote for them, usually within 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, you guys had a lot of reviews there that spoke very highly of the communication, the coordination you guys have in place, because time is money for everybody involved. And if things aren't getting done as quickly as possible and well coordinated, then it's going to cause problems. There's a lot of expense to be assumed there if somebody doesn't get things done right. Is that going to? Those are the things you're helping to avert. Okay.
Yeah.
Very important stuff that we need to cover. All right, so that's the process that is a matter of getting started. Tell me a challenge. I always like to ask this question. I put the business owners on the spot a little bit, but a challenge, whether you were helping somebody who dealt with something that was an adverse situation, or a time when just going through with your own business, you're like, oh, wow, what do we do in this case? But the point is that you overcame it, stuck with it, and made yourself stronger and better from it.
The biggest challenge is finding qualified employees that are good with customer service, because obviously Ashley and we can't be everywhere at once. So I would say that's probably our biggest challenge is running a business, is making sure that we have good employees, and we've been fortunate to have good employees. So,
Ashley, do you agree with that? What would you say?
Oh yeah, well, we definitely have been fortunate. We have a great team, and we all work together. So
yeah, and so it's a matter of coordinating, getting good employees. I guess that is key. I mean, I deal with that myself. Who's going to be on the ball? Who's going to show up on time? Mm-hmm. How much work are they really putting in to get the job done? You got to track that a little bit and figure out, am I getting everything done that I need done? And then should they be doing more? Are they leaving things out? How many teammates do you have? How many employees do you guys have on your team?
We have about 10 right now. I want to say, including both of us.
Okay.
So
So there's 8 other people out there that are all part of the team that you're coordinating. How many particular jobs at any given time do you have going on that you have to coordinate that?
Typically 2 or 3 a day.
Okay.
Sometimes they're 2 months long, sometimes they're a day long, sometimes they're 2 hours long.
Right.
So, yeah, it's really hit and miss. It's that plays a big part in her as far as trying to figure out the schedule to fit everyone in and make sure that we get everyone taken care of and in a timely manner.
So Ashley, is that one of your key roles?
Oh yeah, and then I map out if it's service calls. I have to map out like if they're going like to Florissant to Maryland Heights to St. Louis, and not going from Florissant to St. Louis to Maryland Heights to Illinois, just mapping it out correctly too.
Yeah, the logistics have a lot to do with it too. So you're matter if you're going to get the job done, you're saying, but it takes you 45 minutes to drive there, and you got 45 minutes more at the job, and then another half hour to get to the next location. But it was supposed to start a half hour ago. Those are problems you have to coordinate.
Oh yeah.
Logistics. So what do you use for that? Use your maps program, or do you have a specific logistics?
Through our CRM, that's where all our scheduling and customer information goes. We can actually map it out that way.
Okay. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. They're really on the ball. They've got their mapping coordinated to fill those jobs. I mean, how many times I can imagine somebody saying, well, I don't know, just give them a couple hours to get there. No, man, it could be 45 minutes longer than they need. It's costing people a lot of time and money.
Oh, absolutely. And then we also got to make sure they have the parts with them, obviously, too, as they go through the day as well. So sometimes we have to go to a distributor. So we have multiple distributors that we work with as well, too.
Okay. Yeah, distribution is key. So it's a matter of distributing from one location to another. The parts get time to show up. As a Cardinal Cowboy, I just grab my uniform, throw it in the car, right? That's just pretty easy. But when you've got to have different devices and mechanics and parts that are specific, could be very unique to get located and distributed to the right location.
Absolutely.
All that has to be coordinated.
Yep.
Okay. We're learning a lot here, ladies and gentlemen, about what it is that it takes to get this coordinated, but multiple efforts, because you guys do have multiple businesses here that all kind of coagulate, tie together, as I like to say. Tell me, though, as a matter of we like to figure out the motivation, what keeps people going a little bit. You have a favorite quote? We were talking a little bit about that in the bonus room. It helps you kind of sort this out in your own mind.
Really knock down 8 times, stand up 9 times. So I always get back up, and I tell other business owner friends that we wouldn't be at where we are now today if we didn't get knocked down multiple times. They always get back up. We don't give up easily. So it takes a lot of time, like you said, a lot of logistics to figure out what direction the business is going. You got to keep up with technology and customer satisfaction.
Ashley, what about you?
We also have to keep up with like different jurisdictions, make sure we have licenses, permitting, all that stuff. I don't have a quote, like a favorite quote, but just bouncing off of what he says.
Yeah, I mean, as we talk about it, as a matter of life it's not the error. My favorite quote is kind of tied in what you're saying. It's not the error that causes the business to fail or the team to lose. It's how you respond to that. You said get knocked down 8 times, get back up 9. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
And the other thing I like, tell me if you agree with this. When those 8 times you got knocked down because the other really smart guy, whoever the genius was, they got it right the first time. They don't know what the 8 things are they're going to knock them down later, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You've had the experience to go through that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always different challenges that we run into, and we just try to get better at what we're doing every day. We're not going to go backwards. We're just going to get better.
Constant improvement.
Absolutely, yeah.
Good stuff. What is a major objection you deal with when somebody says, hey, I think I'd like to get this done, but I'm not certain, and you have to help explain to them why a particular way it should be done, or a method that they don't realize is important to follow so that it's done properly?
What would you say our biggest obstacle is with that?
Maybe someone, I know with cameras, especially, a lot of people don't understand that hardwired versus Wi-Fi cameras. So we'll kind of have to explain that hardwired is more reliable.
Okay.
Wi-Fi works off the Wi-Fi, obviously, but the hardwired ones work off power. But Wi-Fi can be kind of in and out sometimes, so you don't always have your cameras up.
So a lot of people are just like, well, it's a camera. You just plug it in and it works. No, there's a lot more behind the scenes. Hardwired, I know that a lot of studios, they like the wired microphones versus the wireless, because wireless tends to have interference potential. And talking about if somebody's using their Wi-Fi system at their house, does their Wi-Fi expand to all reaches of their area they're trying to get cameras put up in, I guess, too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and wireless easily gets mistaken for the camera's completely wireless. You still have to run power to it 9 times out of 10. So wireless is more along the ways of communication, so it's running off Wi-Fi. So a lot of people don't realize that you got to get power to it. Might as well run a video feed to it as well, when possible.
Okay, well that says a lot, because there's so much technology again involved here, and it's not just one little thing, you just flip a switch and it works. Actually, what kind of questions are you getting from the consumers when they're saying, well, wait a minute, why can't you just get this done in 3 days? It takes time, and they understand the process here.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like during the summertime, it's a lot hotter in the attic. So our guys, we have mandatory breaks. If they're getting up in the attic, okay, make sure you guys come down for so much time and drink water. And installs take longer in the summertime. Wintertime, we can fly through them a lot easier. So.
Yeah, somebody as a Cardinal Cowboy dressing up, doing the fun stuff I do. I'm like, I get to take another shower. I just got outside for 30 minutes and now I'm all sweaty again. But those are the things that impacts the way the business runs. As a matter of, these guys need to take breaks. If they're not hydrating properly, then somebody pass out on the job. Well, then you've got a real.
Same on a roof too. I mean, you get on a hot roof. I mean, these guys have got to take breaks. We've been fortunate not to have anyone get injured on a job site, so we, take that in consideration every time we step foot on a job site to make sure we're taking protocols and making sure our guys have our OSHA 10 or OSHA 30 cards. So.
Wow, we're really getting into now. OSHA, he's got OSHA requirements that are sometimes at stake, and you've got to make sure you're on the ball for it too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I guess that gets back into the initial point of this. You want to be a professional. You want to have this thing done properly, because cutting corners costs money. A lot of people say, what's the shortcut to get this done? There is no shortcut, right? And if you want to spend a lot more money later fixing the shortcuts that you made, this causes a lot more problems. You run into that and see clients trying to do that, or other work done by other people that you have to go fix?
Yeah, I mean, weekly. We run into that weekly. We got to explain to them, like, okay, if you're going to do this now, it's going to cost a lot more money down the road just to redo this and then redo this, whatever that project is. So, there's times to where people, I don't know, what's a project that we could give an example of? Not the name of the customer, but.
I mean, it's mostly like the plenum wire, where people don't think they have to use plenum wire.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of codes when you run wires in businesses, so you got to make sure that you run the correct wire above the correct ceilings. I mean, you got plenum ceilings in commercial buildings, you got non-plenum ceilings. So plenum ceilings, they circulate air. In the event there's a fire, you got to have plenum wire so it doesn't burn toxic and doesn't circulate through the HVAC system. So that would be a common one where we have to go back and say, no, you guys need plenum wire for this. It's a lot more expensive, but it's code.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Plenum, I think I said it right. Plenum wire, is that what it is?
Correct. Plenum wire and plenum ceilings.
And plenum ceilings, because these things have not been accounted for. Now you've got other additional problems that need to be accounted for, or else you're going to end up in a lot of trouble, or people's lives are at stake, I guess.
Oh, absolutely.
Somebody could, because they ingest or inhale some of those chemicals from the burnt up wires, I guess is what happens. Is that the case? And then now they've got chemical problems and lawsuits and craziness.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we see it quite often, but there's an easy fix to it. It's doing it the right way the first time.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's the quote we were looking for. Do it right the first time, like the experts here at LVG Electrical and Communications. Serving the St. Louis greater area. Again, 636-362-6584, LOWVG.com. Get a hold of you guys for some expertise. All right, we're going to edit in. Like we said, we've got a couple of interviews we're going to do on site at their couple of locations for their specialties, and we're going to put those into this video. Not going to say when. We don't know exactly when they're going to pop in here, but they're going to be relative to what we're showing everything there. So great information here. A lot more to come with this. Tell me then, what is it that gives you the most satisfaction for overall when the day is done and you're saying, all right, we do get a little time. You talked about how sometimes you bring home a little work, but you got to talk about it. You feel just to cover a little bit. But when you wake up, you go, hey, man, we did a great job here.
I mean, as I mentioned earlier, it's really the reviews and the customers calling us back saying, hey, thank you so much for doing a great job. That's probably my biggest satisfaction. And the employees enjoying what they're doing, watching what we are passionate about doing naturally every day.
Yeah. And that's where I'm looking at the bigger picture type thing, really accomplishing something. The reviews kind of reflect that, but it's that overall for the projects that you guys have been able to produce for businesses.
Yeah.
Would you say that's true, Ashley? It's really
Yeah.
what satisfaction you get. Is doing
Yeah,
that.
and just making customers happy
Full team
at the
effort.
end of the day.
Making customers happy. The team effort. I like that. Well, let's talk a little bit as we finish up here. We got a little bit, and we're going to go over your guys' website. Got a lot of good information out there to share with everybody. How do you feel you contribute to the community through some of the charitable work that you've done and some of the businesses? Some of the associations you've worked with, and your background, who you like to work with too.
Yeah, so we do the 10% military discount for veterans. Yeah, there's some volunteer work that we've done not too long ago as well for some lighting.
We installed some lighting
We
for
did some volunteer work for some lighting for what kind of
a women's shelter.
women's shelter.
Actually, tell me about that a little bit.
Well, I mean, they needed new lighting. So I guess some of it wasn't working. Some,
Exterior lighting.
exterior lighting for the building that had gone out, and so we said that we would do it for free for them,
Okay.
so that the women's shelter could be safer.
Yeah, because it was exterior issue was a matter of when the lights are off. That's when my dad always said nothing good happens after midnight, right?
Yeah.
But if you could light it up at least for them to say, hey, we got lights and cameras, I guess you could help with that too. In this case, they just didn't have the lighting necessary, so that you want to make sure everybody was safe. And for a women's shelter, that could be very important.
Oh yeah.
How long ago was that you worked on that?
That was maybe 3 years ago.
About 3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a cool cause too. You have a number of charities that you like and you support too. Talk a little bit about some of those. Or is there? I know you like veteran stuff, but there were a couple you mentioned to me before that you've done a little work, or you been involved with a
We've
little
done quite a bit of work for Salvation Army locally here. But other than that, would you know of any?
I can't think of any right now.
Well, based on some of the work, and we're going to show some of the stuff you've done for the community. Salvation Army is dynamite, but look at just some of the things you're doing to make sure that these businesses are functioning,
Right.
that the security is in place, that the electrical is working correctly. There's just so much that you contribute by doing that. And we know the charities that you've been working with too, that you do a great job. And that's just part of what we want to emphasize here in our community leaders that are doing that. So with that, we'll take a look here. I've got up on the wall then here. This is your website. Everybody take a look here. We're at LOWVG.com, and lots of great information back here that people can glean from here. But automation, data, electrical, energy, and security. And we were talking about the automation a little bit. I'm going to go up here and look at the automation. But for businesses that need to keep their business in line so that they can make sure certain things happen in a timely fashion, lights go on at the right time, go off when they're not needed. All of these kinds of systematic automations really help the business. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. Gate systems, make sure they close. Make sure alarm systems send notifications if they're not armed or disarmed by a certain time, so you can monitor your employees. But there's all kinds of different advantages of automation to where it can save the consumer money over time.
But really, when you get down to it, I mean, as a matter of having a business that's been so successful and proven with regard to your overall ratings, the response you get, the community, the people you get to help, keep up the good work. We just think that's elementary to what we want to exemplify on our show here. Let's touch a little bit more here. I mean, give me a little bit more about your solar and what you've got with regard to solar and how you help in our community.
Yeah, so there's a lot of tax credits available for solar now, which I'm sure some of your previous guests have mentioned. The idea is to get your meter to go backwards. A lot of people think of solar as, hey, I have power if the electricity goes off. That's normally not the concept. It's more, unless you have batteries. If you have batteries, you'll have power when the utility company's power goes out. But the concept of solar is to get your meter to go backwards rather than forward.
Yeah, so a lot of people these days, solar has really kind of changed the game a little bit because now you do have the option to not spend so much. The discussion I've heard is you want to own your power, right?
Correct,
because
yeah.
now you're not so dependent. And when you're producing more solar through your roof than you're consuming, now you can sell that back and you can actually reduce your bill or to where you don't have a bill. Is that true?
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's the concept? Ashley, how often do you run into people that are looking to do solar and save some money?
There's quite a few nowadays that they're wanting to go greener too, like renewable energies, and save money.
And so that's a matter of then when it comes down to it, some people are going, wow, because for a long time people made the argument solar didn't work. There was just a lot that couldn't be done because your solar, the panels didn't produce enough electricity to make it worth the cost. But that's changed now. Is that true? And there's a lot more now to be said for that, and they can generate more, and you can actually pay less, and you can get no bill if they.
Yeah, or the utility company sends you a check sometimes, depending on your utility company. So
Really?
there's a few factors that might work out to their benefit. Illinois is probably a little bit more common to do solar rather than Missouri right now, just because of the tax credits available in Illinois. There's a lot more tax credits available. So Missouri's got a federal tax credit available, but not a state tax credit, as in where Illinois has a state tax credit available
On top of the federal.
on top of the federal.
Okay, that makes sense. So then there's a real opportunity, and that's where you bring in your expertise. You say, here's the credits, here's how they apply. Do you have to then analyze each person's setup individually, right? Do they face the right way? Is their house the right way? Is their roof the right way? Tell me how that works and how you help the people with that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that we have to look at. As we mentioned earlier, we have to look at the structure. We got to make sure a structural engineer will sign off on our prints. We have to make sure an electrical engineer will sign off on our prints. We got to make sure the solar panels are facing the correct direction. There's a lot of building codes that go into effect when you put a solar panel system on top of a roof now. I mean, you got your setback rules, like you got setback rules to where the panel can only be so close to the side of the roof, and that's for the fire department. If they got to get on top of the roof and put a hole in top of the roof, they've got a pathway to walk up it now. Okay. So you can always tell with the solar panel system if it was installed back in 2015 or if it's been installed in the last 2 years. There's a lot more setback rules.
So setback rules, and that help me understand what the setback rules are, what they mean exactly. So it's a matter of how they can access the roof. What does that mean?
Yeah, so if the fire department's got to get on top of the roof, they've got to have their pathways to walk up to the top of the roof and chop a hole on top of the roof or whatever it is that they're going to do there in an event there's a fire.
Okay.
So the setback rules play a factor for the fire department.
Wow, so there could be a lot of people out there who have solar installed right now and it needs to be changed. Are they going to force them that or they get grandfathered in, or something they should be worried about? Or how does that work?
Most of the time it applies to the jurisdiction of where it is. A lot of these smaller towns don't have inspectors that come out and inspect things like this. We just try to stay up to date with the building codes and push that same standard building code, because we know it's going to eventually hit these smaller jurisdictions as well. But it really boils down to the jurisdiction. St. Louis County's got strict jurisdiction rules, which they're going to follow the current building codes and current electric codes.
Okay. All right, everybody. Carter Rethwish, a.k.a. the Cardinal Cowboy. Another on-site here with LVG Electrical and Communications, Alex Schorble. Did I say that right?
Correct.
He is a master electrician. Alex, tell us about this job, what you're working on here.
The site here is a brand new site that we get brought in to remodel a basement. Family decides what they want to do. We go in and put the electrical everywhere they need it. Brand new install for a basement that was just built.
Well, this is a beautiful house, beautiful neighborhood. You guys work in some of the high-end neighborhoods in the community. Tell me, what's a big mistake that a consumer makes often when they're looking at doing some electrical work in their house?
To assume that it would be quickly resolved. I've had situations where I can come in and quickly resolve you not having power in certain situations, and in other situations it takes me longer. Everybody thinks it will happen quickly, and I end up having to follow something out, taking 3 hours. Then they're not happy that it's taking me that long to figure it out. It's hard to explain to people that that's why it took me that long.
Yeah, well, with great experience, right, that teaches you where to find these problems, how to identify something that took many years to develop those skills, right?
Correct. I started with my great uncle, my grandfather, and houses that were built in the 1800s. So ungrounded services where I started breaking my teeth on real electrical, and that's like the basic of original services that were put in. So I've actually had the opportunity in 1995 to stand in the same location as my great uncle and my grandfather and take out the electrical service they put in and put a new one in. The only reason I knew that they were there is because we always carried magic markers and we wrote our name and our phone number on the panel. Also, if we did a service call, we wrote the date inside the panel and the name of what we did. So I got to see my grandfather and my great uncle's signatures on this panel before I took it down. That's something I don't think a lot of people have a story to tell.
Well, I've seen the historical dating, family house where they wrote the year that they wallpapered in 1864 or something.
Right.
So very neat to have that kind of information. So tell us, how many years now have you been in it and your family been involved with doing electrical work?
I'm a third generation electrician. I started basically about 12 years old, not really being in the industry, but starting to learn things with my great uncle and my grandfather, testing fuses, things like this that helped them. And Started about 12 years old. I have about 37 years of dealing with some type of electrical in my life, and basically it boiled down to 3 generations and 7 decades of electricians in our family.
There you go. If you want to get started with LVG, check them out. Somebody needs to get a project done, reach out to you guys and
Yeah.
put together a plan.
LOWVG.com. You can get a hold of us that way. Get a hold of us for projects and employment.
There you go. Take it from Alex, everybody. Stay tuned for more. Yep. Well, back to our initial point, everybody, and that is you want to have somebody who is an expert. Get somebody who knows what they're doing, or else you're going to cost yourself a lot of money and heartache and problems. And maybe, I hate to have anything hurt, anybody got hurt, but in the matter of if they don't have a pathway to, in the case of a fire, and then hopefully nobody gets hurt, but at least there's going to be saying, hey, there's some lawsuits that might be pending here because this was not installed correctly, nobody paid attention to it. And it's really interesting you mentioned that it's a matter of the jurisdiction because some areas more strictly inform, follow the rules versus others say, we just kind of get to that when we get to it.
Yeah.
And you need to know where those are and how they pertain.
Yeah, we always like to go. We like to put our head on a pillow at night and not have to worry about something like that. So we feel good about the job we do, and we enforce the standard, and we want everyone safe at the end of the day.
Actually, how often are people not paying attention to these things closely enough, and you have to help them understand?
Oh, it happens more often than not. More often than I would think.
Say a few times a week.
Yeah.
There's a few times a week where you've got somebody that go, we didn't realize that was an issue with code, and that doesn't just for solar, that's across the board, I guess, too.
Yeah, I mean, the important thing is there's a lot of companies out there that take shortcuts, as we mentioned earlier, and it's important to look at their background. If you're going to hire a contractor, look how long they've been in business. Make sure they're licensed. Make sure that they're not in a bunch of lawsuits. You can check CaseNet for. So all these factors you want to check when you hire a contractor, any industry that you look at.
That is one I hadn't thought about. But yeah, CaseNet, I'm out there a couple times, and that was mostly like the two I know I'm out there for are from when we sued the drunk driver that hit us.
Wow.
And I had to go through the court system for that. He went to jail for a couple of years. Our driver of our car, Jimmy Barnes, didn't make it. But God has me here for a mission. We're here to continue to highlight leaders in our community. That's the path we're going down. And we've got some experts here that are really helping to exemplify that. So we appreciate you guys taking the time to sit down here for an hour now. Yeah, and despite all of our high-tech stuff and some of the hurdles we all have to overcome with regard to technology. Maybe I need a stronger breaker. Is that what the problem is?
I was going to put my tool belt on.
So we might be having a private meeting here with our guests here, to Jonathan, that can take a look here. But thanks you guys for spending some time with us, and we'll be back with you guys on our show. We're going to do that on-site interview with you guys and share a little bit more about what you guys do at your location.
Absolutely.
Put that in here.
Yeah, we appreciate you having us.
All right, guys. Great information, great insights, some real experts here. LVG, Electrical and Communications. Stay tuned for more, everybody. This is the Your Little Castle Show. Giddy up.